Hey there fellow Planeswalkers, it's Steve for Collector Mania, and we're continuing on our Dominaria Commander Deck Tech series. Today we're going to take a look at Jhoira, Weatherlight Captain. So if you haven't seen this card yet, it is great. This is the red-blue artifact commander that we really have been looking for the last couple of years. I've always said that Izzet would just make one of the best artifact builds out there, and we can finally really do it with this commander. So, 2 colors, a blue and a red, Human Artificer, 3/3. And very straightforward, whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. So artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. So essentially what she is our card draw engine. So that actually freed us up to play a lot more artifacts in our deck, a lot less like spell heavy, you know, like draw cards here, or artifacts that just draw us cards, whatnot. So it really just gives us a great engine to provide us with, you know, finding all of our combo pieces, because that's essentially what we're going to try and do in this deck. So with knowing that, let's go ahead and break into the deck here. So first up, we've got a Goblin Welder. So really good early game. This is probably one of 2 creatures that aren't going to draw us a card, so aren't legendary or an artifact. So I would say it's valuable enough to include. I've got an Ethereum Sculptor, so a little bit of artifact reduction. Pilipala, this is one of our combo pieces, so we're actually looking for this and Grand Architect, and then we can pretty much make infinite mana. Slow Bad, so a little bit of artifact protection, plus in a pinch we can just use it to sacrifice something if somebody's trying to steal it or exile it, you know, so on and so forth. Spellskite, a little bit more protection. Burnished Heart, so this is probably one of the best mana ramp effects that we can get in these colors, really. Etched Champion. So I know a lot of people will argue with me that why are you playing this card? I honestly think it's an amazing card to be playing in an artifact deck, particularly something like this that wants to protect itself early game. I mean, we really do not want to be hit by a lot of stuff. You know, we don't have a lot of life gain or anything in this deck, and we're pretty spell light, so removal isn't that great either. So having something that can just get out there and block early threats or even late game threats is really good. Feldon of the Third Path, one of the better, I guess, mono red commanders in my opinion. Just being able to pay 3, tap it, and make a token copy of something in your graveyard. Yeah, that's really powerful. I mean, think of the interaction with like this and Wormcoil Engine. I mean, it's pretty good. Then Grand Architect, like I was saying earlier, one of our bigger combo pieces. We want to see this in Pilipala and really, like I said, just make infinite mana there. We've got a Metal Worker, so some early game ramp. Most of the time we're pretty much going to have exclusively artifacts in our hand anyway, so having something like this is great. Muzio, great mono blue artifact commander in its own right. I think it actually works really well on the deck here. I mean, it's just an extra threat really, plus it draws this card as soon as we cast it, so super powerful. We've got a Scarecrow, some great recursion. Scrap Trawler, I have yet to actually really play a whole lot with this card. I mean, I've got it in a few decks, and every time I get it out it seems to either die really early or it doesn't seem to ever really trigger its effect, so I'm interested to see what it would be like in here. We've got a Shimmer Mirror, of course, instant speed artifacts is great. Arkham Daxam, this is essentially another Muzio. This is the OG Muzio. A lot of people argue that this one is actually still better. I don't know. Between the two, I'd probably still play Muzio. But great included in the deck. I've got Filigree Sages. There's actually another infinite mana combo with this guy as well. I've got Master Transmuter, a great artifact piece. Padine, Council of Innovations. So I'm excited to have this card in here, not only because it draws us a card when we cast it, but because it protects pretty much everything we have. Just throw some Lightning Greaves on this or some Swiftfoot Boots, and then all of a sudden everything's hexproof for as long as she's out there, really. They've got a Phyrexian Metamorph, a great clone card. Solemn Simulacrum, some more ramp. Caduthla Forge Master. So this is an interesting card. Sacrificing 3 artifacts to find essentially your Darksteel Forge, or really whatever you're after, is actually really powerful. They've got a Duplicate, a little bit of removal. Soul of New Phyrexia, a great way to protect all of our stuff. I mean, essentially just gives everything indestructible, which is really, really good. For 5 mana is not bad. Plus we can use it as an exile effect from the graveyard as well. Wormcoil Engine. Memnarch, so we can also use this with our infinite mana combo to essentially just win the game. I mean, pretty much you just gain control of everybody's permanents, lands included, and then pretty much they're probably going to scoop. I mean, really, I don't know what else they can do at that point. Platinum Angel. Platinum Imperium. Now we're breaking into our non-creature artifacts. So we've got an Astral Cornucopia. So this actually goes really good with the filigree guides that we looked at earlier. This is essentially the combo. You just get these two together. You pay enough on this that you can actually just keep paying in to untap it, and it just gets you infinite mana. We've got a Mana Crypt, Mox Opal, Elixir of Immortality, Soul Ring, of course, Grim Monolith. This works really well with another one of our combos. Is it Signet? Lightning Greaves, Thought Vessel, Basalt Monolith, another combo piece, Commander Sphere. This is probably one of the best mono rocks that they've printed in the last couple of years. I mean, the fact that it's in the Commander products pretty much exclusively tells you something. Being able to tap for any color, and then when you don't need it anymore, sacrifice it and draw a card, or even when somebody like goes to Fracturing Gust, you can just sacrifice it, draw a card. It's an extremely powerful and I would say still underrated artifact. It should be pretty much in any deck that needs it, you know, that's not green basically. They've got Sculpting Steel, Devinar's Sis. This is probably one of my favorite board wipes in like an artifact build. I mean, it really just solves a lot of problems for us, plus we have a lot of ways to untap it and just use it as soon as we play it, so. Unwinding Clock, speaking of ways. Vidalcan Orrery, Gilded Lotus, and if you guys have not seen the new artwork from Dominaria on Gilded Lotus, you really need to check it out. Like, this is probably still my favorite version, but I mean, that is a close contender. I mean, good gosh, it's beautiful. Mirrorworks, probably one of my favorite artifact cards of all time. Paradox Engine, great way to untap all of our mana rocks, and really you can try and get there winning, you know, the game this way. It's going to be a lot harder, and you've really got to pay attention to your sequencing when you play with something like this, especially if you're just trying to mill everybody out with like Blue Sun Zenith or make the infinite mana, stuff like that. So yeah, really cool card. I'm excited to try it out. Planar Bridge, this has actually been sneaking up in pretty much all of my decks for the most part. It's actually not bad. Paying the 8 and tapping it and getting whatever you want is not that big of a cost, really. Darksteel Forge. They've got a power artifact, of course, to go with the Basalt Monolith and the Grim Monolith, so that's another infinite colorless mana combo. Storm the Vault, so this is something we're looking to flip over right away. So it's 2 colorless, a blue and a red. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a colorless treasure artifact token with sacrifice this artifact to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 5 or more artifacts, transform Storm the Vault, which is really what we're after. Then it flips over to this amazing land that says add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, or tap and add blue to your mana pool for each artifact you control. So essentially our only way to get a Academy into a commander deck at this point. Now we're breaking into our Planeswalkers here. We got a Saheeli Rai. So this is probably one of the best artifact commanders in these colors. A colorless, a blue, and a red. Scry 1 is the +1. -2, create a token, which is really what we're after. Sacrifice at the beginning of the end step, and then -7 we're really not too worried about because we're probably never going to get there, so the +1 and -2 is really what we're after here. Then we've got a Dreddy, Scrap Servant. If you have not played with this card, you really need to. There are quite a few amazing builds that just kind of roll around with this guy. I at one point had 2 decks essentially built around him. Really, like I said, if you're playing Mono Red Mud and you're looking for a commander, this is the guy for you. I've got Tezzeret the Seeker, so a little bit of early game ramp, untap 2 Mono Rocks, and then -X you can go find an artifact from your library and put it into play, which is really powerful. Breaking into our instance here, we've got a Cyclonic Rift, of course, the best board wipe ever printed in my opinion. Reality Shift, really good at spot removal. Blue Sun Zenith, one of our win conditions, essentially with our infinite mana. Disallow, one of the best counterspells in the entire format in my opinion. I mean, it pretty much handles everything you want it to. We've got a Whir of Invention, so really good tutor card. Cryptic Command, another really good counterspell. Paradoxical Outcome, so a great way. I essentially included this over Hurkyl's Recall just because this draws us a ton of cards. I know it's 2 more mana and might be a little bit harder to cast in certain situations, but I don't know, I think it'll work just fine. We've got our sorceries here. We've got a Trash for Treasure, a Scrap Mastery, one of the best cards that's been printed for artifacts in a long time, really. That's not an artifact, I guess I'd put that way. Essentially, it's a living death for artifacts. It's a great card to pull off, especially if you get it for full effect. If your graveyard is just full of artifacts and you do this, it's an amazing feeling. Then All's Dust, probably one of the best border wipes ever printed. I mean, we're mostly running colorless permanents, so this is really going to affect us as much as our opponents. Now we're breaking into our lands here. So first up, we've got a few artifact lands. I included them just because they're going to turn some of our metalcraft work stuff on, plus we can sacrifice them to Jhoira to have certain effects and Scarecrow and certain things like that. So, see the Sun out, just tap for a blue. Darksteel Citadel, this is one of the best ones because it's indestructible, but only taps for a colorless. And then we've got a Great Furnace, of course. And then our non-artifact lands, we've got an Academy Ruins, probably one of the best artifact lands out there. Bloodstained Mire, so fetch land. Buried Ruin, Cascade Bluffs, Command Tower, Inventor's Fair, Is it Guildgate, Myriad Landscape, Polluted Delta, Reliquary Tower, Scalding Tarn, Spire of Industry, Steam Vents, Sulphur Falls, Swiftwater Cliffs, Temple of Epiphany, Volcanic Island, which I do not own. This is I think I only own one dual land at this point, so getting this for if I actually build this deck in paper probably won't happen. I mean, I generally don't look at dual lands as something that you need for Commander at this point. But I don't know, I thought it was a kind of cool include, plus I love the artwork of the, it's an online set, I can't remember exactly what it was called. But it looks amazing. You know, they'll never print these for us, but it's fun to like fantasize about it, I guess. Then I believe there are 9 islands and 7 mountains. I'll have to check on the deck list, that'll be below. But yeah, that is the deck tech. It's gonna be an amazing deck, you know, depending on which way you want to build it. A lot of people are saying it's more of a Storm Commander, which I could definitely see. Lauren's definitely leaning towards that. Me personally, I like this build, just being able to run through our deck, play as many artifacts as we can, and get to our combos and just win. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, as always, I hope you guys are really enjoying this Commander series. We're having a blast with it. I mean, we looked at the numbers earlier today. Me and Eric pretty much have like 16 Commanders each to do at this point, and I think even more got released today. Oh, it's just getting crazy. So anyway, once again, we will see you guys next time, and yeah, have a good day.